Good day, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Briareos Kerensky and welcome to the review of Otogi Katsugeki Mameda no Bakeru, Oracle Saitarou no Sainan, a little game right now only available in Japan for the Nintendo Switch. To spare me going through 3 or 4 takes each time I'd need to name this game, I'll be shortening the title to Sainan. Sainan is the creation of Studio Goodfeel, who some of you might recognize from their work on a few Nintendo franchises, like Kirby's Epic Yarn and Yoshi's Crafted World. This is one of the few games based on original characters by the studio, and tries to capture the same vibes of Konami's Goemon. The main and only playable character is Bakeru, a tanuki living in a fairy tale version of Japan where folk heroes and yokais meet technology. This Japan is divided into provinces mirroring those of real Japan, and stage design takes inspiration from a province's peculiarities. The ample fields of Nara filled with deers, the steamy onsens of Gunma, the foundries of Fukuoka, or the snowy peaks of Hokkaido. If you know a little about Japan, many stages will make you crack a smile once you see the various touches they offer. If you don't, some stages will make you wonder what exactly inspired the developers, like the moving triangular houses of Gifu. Many times the game will surprise you. Stages with narrow pathways, stages with open areas, auto-scrolling parades, piloting a robotic dog in racing and shooting stages, or city-sized boxing rings where you fight a giant mech aboard your own giant mech. Most stages are of the platforming variety, but the other styles pop up exactly when you feel like playing them again, keeping interest in the game fresh. The care that went into each of the 63 stages is actually amazing, and it's one of the major reasons to keep playing. Enemies, on the other hand, don't share the same variety and they'll be repeated throughout the game. The other major point in Sainan's favor is that the game is fun. As simple as that. Surely it's not perfect, and the somewhat plain combat and lack of enemy variety do make the game a bit repetitive, but going around the stages, fighting enemies that seem interested in partying and having the time of their life more than anything else, and collecting the various secrets is incredibly enjoyable. To complete a platforming stage, Bakeru has to find and destroy 3 large lanterns, then make his way to the final Taiko drum and lit all its lights. These stages have 4 or more of these lanterns, so finding them is not a big deal. Other stage types either reward those lanterns automatically upon checkpoints or don't have them at all. There are also hidden collectibles to find. All stages have 3 items related to the province you are in, plus 5 unchiku. These are small yellow characters, with a very peculiar design, describing random facts about Japan. Later, some stages add one of Bakeru's tanuki friends masquerading as something. Once found, they will unlock masks inspired by Japanese yokais like tengus and the like. These secrets start off as rather easy to find, but get trickier as stages become less linear and with more secondary paths to take. The rhythm at which stages grow in size and complexity is spread nicely across the duration of the game, though the challenge remains constant from start to finish. Sainan is not a difficult game, checkpoints are plentiful, and there are at least 2 shops per level where you can replenish your health or buy extra lives that will let you continue from exactly where you are. Despite the stage's visual variety, the challenges you'll face aren't all that different, but they are mixed and matched in a way to keep things at the very least interesting. From jets of water to propel you around, platforms to turn around with Bakeru's attacks, ninja kites to climb tall buildings, self-destroying platforms. They won't be difficult to cross for seasoned gamers, but it will be fun too. In racing stages there are no positions and your rewards aren't based on the fun of time, you are simply racing to the finish, catching boost pads and dodging obstacles. Shooting stages are more involved, featuring a standard attack, a limited number of bombs and a rechargeable beam for larger enemies. These levels are surprisingly competent and I would have loved to have a couple more. mech-on-mech battles are reserved for boss encounters. These battles are played out like a boxing match, where both you and your opponent are knocked to the ground, with a countdown, at certain intervals of the life bar. Both Bakeru and local boss also have a special attack, charged up by landing hits. Stage variety is great, though if you have a bit of video gaming experience, all playstyles could come off as a bit slow, and I would say this is the biggest strike against Oto Sainan. It's a bit slow, never in a way that makes the game boring, but a faster tempo could have made many stages a lot more thrilling. Bakeru, being a tanuki, can change shapes. The first transformation is given during the first stage and is purely for exploration purposes, as it allows our hero to shrink down in size. The other three are more combat related and are acquired by defeating heroes from Japanese folk tales. It's also very fun to see Oto Sainan's interpretation of these heroes, and it's another positive point for the game. Unfortunately, transformations could have been better implemented into the game itself, as half of them are basically useless. Kintaro's and Urashimataro's transformations are seldomly used, if at all, while Momotaro's form is what you will use for the rest of the game once you get it. It moves faster than Bakeru and has ranged attacks, though it's a bit tricky to maneuver around tight corners, but the game's platforming is very lenient. Bakeru's shrunken form doesn't find use outside getting to bonus areas or pass from a stage section to the next, and this form's ability to float a short while after a jump goes unused for the whole game. Transformations are limited by a meter, but enemies drop plenty of recharges and it's easy to keep the meter full while going through stages. In his standard form, Bakeru relies on two taiko drumsticks to beat enemies. In the default control schemes, these are controlled by L and R, and each stick performs slightly different combos. Mix the two together and you get a third different way of attacking. Bakeru can also use a small taiko drum to protect himself, as well as roll away from danger and, of course, jump over obstacles. He can also dash, but I'm not entirely sure you get a speed boost from this move. Most enemies die in 1 or 2 hits, with what could pass as mid-level bosses requiring a bit more finesse, like baiting their attacks or charging up a strong attack to break their guard. Combat is simple, but works well for Oto Sainan's relaxed playstyle. The camera is sluggish as well, and a lot of times with a limited range. It's very rare that you'll get a bad point of view, but I wish there was more control over it. Graphics are bright and colorful, with a lot of charm and a peculiar style that perfectly fits the tone of the story and the game itself. Everything is clear and easy to read despite the many neon signs and graffiti dotting buildings and objects laid around stages. Background tracks are cheerful, though a bit understated compared to graphics and the bombastic sound effects. There is a bit of voice acting here and there. Game performance, unfortunately, is unrefined. In docked mode, framerate varies wildly between mid-10s and 30 frames per second depending on how large a stage is. The game never becomes unplayable, but you can clearly see fluidity taking a hit in more complex scenes. There is no dynamic resolution here at the very least, and graphics always remain sharp with no drop in texture quality either. Handheld, Oto Sainan is able to keep a better frame rate, and I actually preferred playing the game in this mode than docked. Otogi Katsugeki Mameda no Bakeru, Oracle Saitarou no Sainan, is a game with no aspiration of being the next big masterpiece or anything more than a simple and fun title for anyone to enjoy, and fully accomplishes that goal. Younger gamers will appreciate the cartoony graphics, novice gamers will enjoy the easy yet amusing game loop, and long-time gamers will be delighted by how lovingly put together the title is. My major gripes with the game are in fact minor complaints dictated by personal taste more than anything else, and I would love to see a sequel, or another game made in the style, and for any Western publisher to pick this up. Otogi Katsugeki Mameda no Bakeru, Oracle Saitarou no Sainan is a fun game with little to no strings attached. I hope you have enjoyed this review and you'll stick around for more. Briario Skerensky, over and out.
Yari!